He spat the words at her, his voice dripping with contempt. "You're wearing that? You look like the help, Serafina. Are you trying to sabotage me?" Her husband, Marcus, gestured to her simple charcoal grey dress, his face twisted in disgust. She was, in his eyes, a plain, worthless accessory he was forced to drag to the most important gala of his life. But he had no idea that the simple woman he insulted was the silent owner of a billion-dollar empire, and that very dress was the key. He was about to learn, in front of the entire world, that the woman he called worthless was the one they all worshipped. The penthouse apartment was a monument to glass, steel, and suffocating silence. It soared 50 stories above Central Park, a sterile box in the sky that Marcus Thorne had acquired as a testament to his own brilliance. For his wife, Serafina, it was just a cage with a better view. Marcus was a man who wore his success like armor. His suits were Tom Ford, his watch a Patek Philippe, and his ambition was a ravenous, bottomless pit. He was a senior partner at a high-flying private equity firm, and tonight was the annual Innovators Gala, an event where stock portfolios were whispered about more than art, and a single handshake could be worth 9 figures. "Serafina!" His voice boomed from the master bedroom, sharp and impatient. Serafina paused in the hallway. She had been standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the city lights blur into a watercolor of indifferent beauty. She took a breath, smoothed the front of her dress, and walked toward him. He was adjusting his bow tie, his reflection in the black marble wall scowling back at him. "Where have you been?" "We're late. The car is downstairs. We need to be seen. Robert Harrison is going to be there, and if I land the Harrison Fund, He stopped, finally turning to look at her. His face, handsome and sharp, curdled. Serafina stood before him. She was not a conventionally flashy woman. Her light brown hair was pulled back in a simple, elegant chignon. Her makeup was minimal. And her dress? It was the problem. The dress was charcoal grey silk, with a deceptively simple cut. It had long sleeves, a high neck, and fell to her mid-calf. There were no sequins, no plunging neckline, no logos. It was a whisper of fabric, tailored so perfectly it looked as though it had been spun around her. Marcus stared. His eye twitched. "What?" he said, his voice dangerously low. "Is that?" "It's a dress, Marcus," she replied, her voice quiet but firm. "That's not a dress. That's a shroud. It's a rag. My God, Serafina, tonight is the Innovators Gala, not a funeral for a librarian. You look like the help. You look like you're about to ask someone for their coat." Serafina's hands clasped in front of her. She said nothing. "Are you actively trying to sabotage me?" he hissed, stepping closer. "Is that it? You're jealous of my success. So you're trying to make me look like I can't even afford to dress my own wife?" He grabbed a swath of the grey silk between his thumb and forefinger. "This feels cheap. Where did you even get this? J. Crew? Ann Taylor?" "I like it," she said, her voice small but unbreakable. "I don't care if you like it," he exploded. "I care what Robert Harrison thinks. I care what the board thinks. You are my wife. You are an extension of me. Your appearance reflects my status." He stormed over to their enormous walk-in closet and ripped open her side. It was sparse compared to his, which was a showroom of designer labels. He pulled out a dress bag, unzipping it with a violent slash. Inside was a screaming red Versace gown, covered in gold hardware. It was loud, aggressive, and deeply, painfully obvious. "I bought you this last month. You will wear this," he commanded. "No, Marcus." He froze. "What did you say to me?" "I'm not wearing that dress. I'm wearing this one." He stalked toward her, his face dark red. He was a foot taller than her, a wall of expensive cologne and rage. He raised his hand, and for a second she thought he might strike her. He saw her flinch, just a tiny, almost imperceptible tremor, and it seemed to please him. He lowered his hand, sneering. "Fine," he spat. "Come looking like a beggar. But when we get there, you don't speak. You stand behind me, you smile, and you try not to look as pathetic as that dress." He grabbed his coat and stormed out of the room. "And fix your hair. You look washed out." Serafina stood alone in the cavernous room. The silence rushed back in, heavier this time. She walked to her vanity mirror and looked at her reflection. She saw the washed-out woman, the beggar, the shroud. Then she leaned closer. Her eyes were not dull. They were a clear, sharp blue. They were the eyes of a woman keeping a secret so vast it could swallow a man like Marcus whole. She picked up her simple, unbranded clutch, made of the same charcoal silk as the dress, and walked out of the penthouse, her back perfectly straight, to follow her husband into the night. The gala was held at the Museum of Modern Art, the atrium transformed into a glittering sea of ambition. Waiters floated by with trays of champagne, and the air thrummed with the sound of 1,000 conversations, each one a subtle negotiation of power. Marcus was in his element. He plastered a brilliant white smile on his face, grabbed 2 glasses of champagne, and thrust one at Serafina without looking at her. "Drink this. Try to look happy," he muttered, before abandoning her to intercept Robert Harrison. Serafina watched him go. She was used to this. At these events, she was a ghost. She drifted to the edge of the room, finding a quiet spot near a towering sculpture, content to be a spectator. She watched Marcus laugh too loudly at Harrison's jokes, his hand clapping the older man's shoulder with practiced, false familiarity. "Sarah, darling, you came." Serafina turned. A woman slinked toward her, a shark in a blood-red dress. It was Chloe Bishop. Chloe was Marcus's colleague, his protégée, as he called her. She was everything Serafina was not: loud, blonde, aggressively sculpted, and dripping in logos. Tonight, she was poured into a dress that left nothing to the imagination. And as she got closer, Serafina's blood ran cold. It wasn't just a red dress. It was the red Versace, the one Marcus had bought for Serafina, the one he had just tried to force her to wear. Chloe's eyes glittered with malicious triumph. She ran a perfectly manicured hand down the gold hardware on her hip. "Marcus was so insistent I wear this tonight," Chloe purred, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "He said he bought it for... oh, I forget. But he just knew it would look better on me. Don't you agree?" Serafina looked at the dress, then at Chloe's smug face, then at her husband, who was now watching them from across the room, a faint, cruel smirk on his lips. He had planned this. This was her punishment for her defiance, a public, calculated humiliation. "It looks exactly as it was intended to," Serafina said, her voice perfectly even. Chloe's smile faltered, confused by the non-answer. She recovered quickly. "And you, darling? My goodness." She looked Serafina up and down, her gaze a physical insult. "That's brave. Such a simple little thing. Is it vintage, or just old?" "It's comfortable," Serafina replied. "Comfortable?" Chloe shrieked with laughter. "Oh, honey, you don't come to the Innovators Gala to be comfortable. You come to be seen. But then again, I suppose you're right. That outfit is perfect for blending in with the catering staff." She leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Take my advice. A man like Marcus doesn't want a mouse, Sarah. He wants a lioness. You should really put in some effort before he... well, you know." She winked, tapped Serafina's shoulder, and slinked away to join Marcus. Serafina watched them. She watched as Marcus put his arm around Chloe's waist, pulling her close. She watched as he leaned in and whispered something in her ear that made her laugh, her head thrown back. Robert Harrison, the potential client, watched the interaction with a raised, judgmental eyebrow. A wave of dizziness hit Serafina. The humiliation was a physical, choking thing. She felt the eyes of people nearby, heard their whispers. That's his wife? In the grey rag? And that's his colleague? In the Versace? The story wrote itself. She turned and walked, not to the exit, but deeper into the museum, needing air. She found a quieter gallery, the stark, beautiful lines of a Barnett Newman painting offering a moment of calm. An impeccable piece. The One Mint series, isn't it? A woman's voice, crisp and British, cut through her thoughts. Serafina turned. The woman standing beside her was unmistakable. Beatrice Wintour, the legendary, formidable editor-in-chief of Elan magazine, the global Bible of fashion. She was terrifying, iconic, and currently looking at Serafina with a gaze that could strip paint. Yes, it is, Serafina said. Beatrice's eyes left the painting and scanned Serafina. It was a slow, deliberate appraisal, moving from her hair to her face, and finally to the dress. Serafina braced herself for another insult. Beatrice's gaze lingered on the dress. She tilted her head. A flicker of something crossed her features. Recognition? Respect? A bold choice for an event like this, Beatrice said, her voice neutral. So I've been told, Serafina replied. Beatrice gave a tiny, almost invisible smile. Most people here are dressed in noise. You are dressed in confidence. It's refreshing. She looked at the dress one more time, her eyes tracing the invisible, perfect seamwork. That, she said, with a quiet finality, is an exceptional garment. Before Serafina could respond, an aide appeared at Beatrice's elbow. Miss Winter, they are ready for you. Beatrice nodded, then gave Serafina one last, calculating look. Enjoy the evening, Ms. Thorne, Serafina said. Serafina Thorne. Ms. Thorne. Beatrice nodded curtly and was gone. Serafina stood alone, her heart hammering. It was the first kind word she'd received in years. She touched the silk of her sleeve. The humiliation from Marcus and Chloe began to recede, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. They thought she was a ghost. They thought she was the help. They had no idea who she really was. But they would. Soon. 3 days a week, Serafina Thorne ceased to exist. On those days, she wouldn't take the private elevator from the penthouse. She would take the service elevator down to the sub-basement, exit into the alley, and walk 3 blocks to a different subway line. She would ride it downtown to Tribeca, to an anonymous pre-war building with a rusty steel door. She'd unlock it, pass through a darkened freight area, and enter a second, biometric-locked door. The moment it hissed shut behind her, she was no longer Serafina Thorne, the mousy, invisible wife. She was the Weaver. The studio was a 10,000-square-foot oasis of white light, raw concrete, and meticulously organized creation. This was her kingdom. This was the global headquarters of Atelier Grey. In the fashion world, Atelier Grey was a myth. It was a brand spoken of in hushed, reverent tones. It had appeared from nowhere 3 years prior. It had no logo. It ran no advertising. It had no flagship store. It was sold only through a password-protected website, and you couldn't ask for the password. You had to be given it. Its clients were not influencers. They were Nobel Prize-winning authors, avant-garde architects, old-money heiresses who despised logos, and the few tech billionaires with actual taste. The quality was absurd, the tailoring microscopic in its precision, and the prices astronomical. and no one knew who the Weaver was. The press had tried. Vogue, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, they all ran investigative pieces. They speculated it was a reclusive European count, a famous designer leaving a big house, like Phoebe Philo after Selin, or even a collective of Japanese masters. They were all wrong. It was Serafina. She walked through her studio, where her small, elite team of pattern makers and seamstresses, all of in-house, all paid extraordinarily well, all bound by ironclad NDAs, worked in focused silence. "Good morning, Miss Gray," her studio head, Arthur, said. He was a man in his 60s with the hands of a surgeon. "Arthur, how is the new cashmere?" "Like cloud," he said, handing her a swatch of the cream-coloured fabric. She rubbed it between her fingers. This was her truth. The feel of fabric, the line of a seam, the precise weight of a drape. This was the language she spoke. She had been a prodigy at Parsons School of Design. Her graduate collection was hailed as genius. She'd started a small label with her then-boyfriend, a charismatic designer named Leo Petrov. Serafina handled the design. Leo handled the marketing. The brand took off. And then, 2 weeks before their first major runway show, Leo vanished. He reappeared a month later, having trademarked all her designs, all her patterns and the brand name. He had pushed her out, taken full credit, and left her with nothing. The legal battle bankrupted her. The betrayal broke her. She vowed 2 things. She would never be poor again, and she would never let a face, especially a man's, overshadow her work. She met Marcus a year later. She was working as a simple pattern maker, hiding her talent. He was an up-and-coming banker. He saw her quiet, classical beauty and her, supposedly modest, family trust fund. He saw a suitable, non-threatening wife. She saw a shield, a way to be invisible while she rebuilt. She'd started Atelier Grey with the last of her trust money, anonymously. She was the sole investor, the sole designer, the sole owner. In 3 years, her simple little brand had been valued by Forbes at an estimated $1.2 billion. Marcus, who checked his own stock portfolio 30 times a day, had no idea. He complained about her boring clothes, while his worthless wife was personally dressing the Queen of Sweden. "Miss Gray," Arthur said, pulling her from her thoughts, "the invitation you were waiting for arrived." He handed her a thick, cream-coloured envelope. It was embossed with a simple, elegant logo, GFS, the Global Fashion Summit. It was the Davos of the fashion world, held in Paris. It wasn't about runway shows. It was about the business and future of fashion. The letter inside was from the director. It formally invited the Weaver of Atelier Grey to accept the 2025 Global Visionary Award in person. "They are quite insistent," Arthur said. "They say it's time for the Weaver to take her bow. For 3 years she had refused every award, every interview, every photo. But this was different." She thought of Marcus's sneer. "You look like the help." She thought of Chloe's laugh. A man like Marcus doesn't want a mouse. She thought of Beatrice Wintour's appraising eye. An exceptional garment. "Arthur," she said, a cold, clear fire lighting in her eyes. "Book a flight to Paris, for me and for the entire senior team." "And the award?" he asked. "Oh, I'm going to accept it," Serafina said. "But first, I need you to retrieve a dress from my personal archive." "Which one, Miss Gray?" "The charcoal silk, the one I wore to the gala. Have it cleaned, pressed and packed as if it were the crown jewels." "Of course. And will Mr. Thorne be joining you?" Serafina looked at the design wall, at the sketches for her next revolutionary collection. "I have a feeling," she said, "that Mr. Thorne will find his own way there." The week after the gala was not a good one for Marcus Thorne. He arrived at his gleaming corner office on Monday, expecting congratulations. Instead, he was met with a wall of silence. The Innovators Gala had been a disaster, and he knew it. Robert Harrison, the client he was meant to land, had sent him a curt email. "Mr. Thorne, thank you for the invitation. It was illuminating." It was a no, written in the language of old money. The rumour mill, fueled by Chloe's preening in the Versace dress, had cemented a narrative. Marcus Thorne was a man who disrespected his wife and flaunted his mistress. In the stuffy conservative world of high finance, bad taste was one thing, but public indiscretion was a sign of poor judgment. It made him look like a liability. "What the hell happened?" his senior partner, a gruff man named Reynolds, demanded, storming into Marcus's office. "Harrison is pulling his fund. He said you lack discretion. What did you do, Marcus?" "It was nothing. A misunderstanding," Marcus blustered. "A misunderstanding. I heard your wife looked like a pauper, and you were all over Chloe Bishop. Is that true?" "That's slander. My wife, she's simple. She's shy. She's a problem, Marcus," Reynolds snapped. "And so is Chloe. Your little office romance is costing us money. Fix it. And fix your wife, or you're out." Marcus's world was tilting. He was over-leveraged. He had bought the penthouse assuming the Harrison deal, assuming his bonus. He had poured money into a private account for Chloe. He was, to put it mildly, in deep financial trouble. He went home that night in a foul mood. Serafina was in the kitchen, sipping tea and reading a book. The sight of her, so calm, so simple, made him see red. "This is your fault," he snarled, throwing his briefcase onto the Italian marble counter. Serafina looked up, her expression unreadable. "What is my fault, Marcus?" "The Harrison deal. It's dead. He thought you were unsuitable. That dress, that pathetic grey rag, you cost me. You cost me millions of dollars. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I wore a dress, Marcus. You are the one who behaved poorly." He was momentarily stunned by her directness. "You are nothing, do you hear me? You're a leech. You live in my house. You spend my money. Or wait, you don't even do that, do you? You just hoard that little trust fund of yours. What good are you? You're just beige." He was trying to break her. He needed her to break. He needed access to her trust fund. That was his only way out. "You're nothing without me, Serafina," he said, his voice dropping to a low, venomous tone. "You'd be serving coffee in some diner if I hadn't married you. You are a nobody." Serafina closed her book. She stood up. She was several inches shorter than him, yet somehow she seemed to look down on him. "You're right, Marcus. I am a nobody," she said, her voice clear as ice. "I'm just your simple wife." She walked past him, toward their bedroom. "Where do you think you're going?" he demanded. "I'm packing, Marcus. I have a flight to Paris tomorrow." This gave him pause. "Paris? For what? A spa trip?" "Something like that. A fashion conference I wanted to see." A new, terrible idea bloomed in Marcus's mind. A lifeline. The Global Fashion Summit was in Paris. He'd seen announcements. It was the place to be seen. All the luxury brands, all the high net worth individuals, all the new money. "The Global Fashion Summit," he said aloud. "That's where you're going?" "Yes." "I'm coming with you." Serafina turned. "I don't think that's a good idea." "I don't care," he laughed, a frantic, desperate sound. "This is perfect. This is my second chance. Reynolds wants me to look like a solid family man. Fine, I'll take my loving wife to Paris. We'll be seen at the right events. It'll smooth everything over." He grabbed her arms, his grip painfully tight. "You and me, Sarah. We're going to Paris, And this time, you will look the part. You're going to go to Chanel, to Dior. You're going to use that trust fund of yours and buy whatever it takes to look like you're married to me." Serafina looked at his hands on her arms, then back up at his face. The desperation was rolling off him, thick and sour. He was a drowning man, and he thought she was a life raft. He had no idea she was the ocean. "All right, Marcus," she said, a small, cold smile playing on her lips. "Paris it is." Paris was a flurry of grey skies and blinding ambition. The Global Fashion Summit had taken over the Grand Palais, its glass-domed roof sheltering the most powerful people in the industry. Marcus was a man possessed. He had forced Serafina on a shopping spree the moment they landed. He watched with frantic approval as she dutifully visited the Chanel and Dior boutiques on Avenue Montaigne. He didn't notice that she didn't actually buy anything. She just let the sales associates, who recognized her instantly from her private buyer profile, play along. "This is it, Sarah," Marcus buzzed as their car pulled up, his hands fidgeting with his cuffs. "You look good. Very appropriate." She was wearing a simple, impeccably tailored black pantsuit. It was, of course, atelier grey. But to Marcus, it was just appropriate and boring, and therefore safe. He was so focused on his performance, he'd given up trying to force her into something flashy. "Now remember," he coached, "we are a team. We are happy. We are successful. Let me do the talking. Just smile and nod." "I understand, Marcus," she said. They entered the summit. The place was electric. Marcus immediately spotted a tech CEO and dove in, leaving Serafina by the entrance. "I'll be right back. Don't wander off," he ordered. The moment he was gone, Serafina's entire demeanor shifted. The demure, appropriate wife vanished. Her posture straightened. Her gaze became sharp. A man in a dark suit with an earpiece materialized at her side. "Miss Gray, we've been expecting you. Please follow me." She was escorted not into the main auditorium, but through a private, velvet-roped entrance. She was led backstage to a luxurious green room. "Miss Winter is on her way down. The panel starts in 20 minutes, the man said. "The Visionary Award is the final item on the agenda. We have your package here and secure." "Thank you, Michael," Serafina said. A moment later, Beatrice Wintour swept in, her signature sunglasses in place. "Serafina, you came." "Beatrice, I couldn't refuse." "Good," Beatrice said, giving Serafina's pantsuit an approving nod. "The industry is rabid. They are desperate to know who the Weaver is. Are you ready for this? There's no going back. You're no longer a ghost." "I know," Serafina said. "It's time. But Beatrice, I have a condition for my acceptance." Beatrice raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "A condition?" "I don't want to be announced, not at first. I want to walk up from the audience, and I need one specific seat." Beatrice listened. A slow, predatory smile spread across her face. "Oh, that is much better than a backstage reveal. That is theatre. Consider it done. We'll have security clear your seat. Where is your husband?" "He's in the general admission," Serafina said. "He thinks I'm here to watch." Beatrice's smile widened. "This is going to be the best summit we've had in a decade." Meanwhile, Marcus had schmoozed his way into a mid-level seat in the packed auditorium. He was scanning the room, trying to spot high-value targets. He was so wrapped up in his own networking that he didn't notice the empty, reserved seat in the front row, center. He didn't see Serafina, escorted by a different security guard, slip into that very seat just as the lights went down. He was sitting 20 rows back, blissfully ignorant when the lights came up on the most powerful panel in fashion. The stage was a minimalist's dream. 4 white chairs, A massive screen. The panelists were icons. There was Beatrice Wintour, editor of Eilon. There was Damien Chevalier, the revered, iconoclastic designer from Paris. And there was Kaito Tanaka, the Japanese minimalist master. The moderator, a sharp journalist from the Financial Times, began. Welcome. Our topic today is the future of luxury. Is it sustainability? The metaverse? Or, she paused, is it anonymity? The crowd murmured. Damien Chevalier, a man who rarely spoke, leaned into his mic. It is not anonymity. It is integrity. For 20 years we have been in a cycle of trash. He said the word with beautiful French disdain. Logos, influencers, plastic clothing for plastic people. We have sold noise. The future, the true luxury, is silence. Beatrice Wintour nodded. Damien is right. The single most influential voice in fashion today isn't a voice at all. It's a whisper. I'm talking, of course, about Atelier Grey. A jolt went through the auditorium. In the 20th row, Marcus Thorne scoffed. Atelier Grey. He'd heard of it. Some absurdly overpriced, boring brand for people who thought they were too smart for labels. He checked his phone, looking for emails. On stage, the giant screen lit up, not with a logo, but with products. A simple coat, a perfect handbag, a simple charcoal grey silk dress. Marcus didn't even look up. What Atelier Grey has done, Beatrice continued, her voice amplified, is remind us what value means. It's not the name on the outside, it's the craft on the inside. The designer, this weaver, has rejected fame, rejected branding, and in doing so has become the single most powerful brand in the world. They have proven that the product is enough. But who is it, Beatrice? The moderator pressed. Everyone wants to know. It's a person who understands that true power is silent, Beatrice said, her eyes scanning the front row. In the back, Marcus was texting Chloe. This is painfully boring, all talking about some brand with no ads. Idiots, Chloe texted back. Just land a deal. I want that new Birkin. Red. Marcus was so engrossed in his phone, he almost missed the shift in the room. Which brings us, the moderator said, her voice dropping, to our final announcement. The Global Fashion Summit Visionary Award is the highest honor in our industry. It is given to the person who has not just changed the game, but created a new one. This year, the board's vote was unanimous. The 2025 Visionary Award goes to the founder, creator, and silent owner of Atelier Grey, the weaver. A polite, expectant applause. For 3 years, the weaver has declined to accept this award, but this year, they are here. The auditorium went dead silent. Every camera, every phone, every pair of eyes was fixed on the stage. Marcus finally looked up, intrigued despite himself. About time they unmask this person, he muttered. We have been told, the moderator said, a note of confusion in her voice, that the weaver is not backstage. They are in the audience. A spotlight, bright as the sun, snapped on. It panned across the front rows, sweeping over celebrities and designers. This person, Beatrice Wintour said, taking the mic, wanted to prove a point, that the person in the clothes is not as important as the craft of the clothes. But today, the craft and the creator will share the stage. The spotlight stopped. It landed on the front row, center. It illuminated a woman in a simple black pantsuit. It illuminated Serafina. In the 20th row, Marcus Thorne froze. His phone slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. What the hell? He whispered. He watched, his blood turning to ice, as his wife, his plain, simple, nothing wife, stood up. The silence in the Grand Palais was absolute. It was a suffocating, collective gasp. Serafina stood in the blinding white light, her face calm and composed. She turned, first to the left, then to the right, allowing the thousands of attendees to see her, to see the nobody. Beatrice Wintour on stage was smiling. "Please," she said, her voice booming, "join us on stage, Serafina." Serafina. The name echoed. On stage, an assistant had wheeled out a single mannequin. On it, perfectly lit, was a charcoal grey silk dress. The exact dress from the gala. A second spotlight hit the dress, and on the massive screen above the stage, an image flashed. It was a high-resolution paparazzi shot from the Innovators Gala. But it wasn't focused on Marcus or Chloe. It was a zoomed-in, crystal-clear shot of Serafina, standing alone by the sculpture, in her rag. Beside it, a new image flashed, a page from the official Atelier Grey digital lookbook, the centerpiece of the new collection. It was the same dress, titled The Oracle. The auditorium finally exploded. The sound was deafening. Flashes from 100 press cameras went off at once, turning the room into a strobing, chaotic nightmare for one person and a coronation for another. Marcus Thorne could not breathe. His vision tunneled. It wasn't possible. It was a joke, a prank. But he was watching his wife. He was watching Serafina Grey, he hadn't even known her maiden name, walk up the steps to the stage. She moved with a grace and confidence he had never seen. She shook hands with Damien Chevalier, who kissed her on both cheeks. She embraced Kaito Tanaka, who bowed deeply to her, and she stood beside Beatrice Wintour, who handed her the heavy, crystal, Visionary Award. She stepped up to the microphone. The room fell silent again, waiting. In the 20th row, Marcus was shaking. The man next to him, a buyer from Neiman Marcus, grabbed his arm. "My God, man! That's your wife! You're married to the Weaver! You lucky bastard!" Marcus's face was chalk white. He felt bile rise in his throat. Serafina's voice rang out, clear and strong. Not the mousy whisper he was used to, but the resonant, assured voice of a CEO. "My name is Serafina Grey," she began, "and I am the Weaver. For 3 years I stayed silent. I let my work speak for me. I did this because, long ago, my voice and my work were stolen from me by a man who believed a woman's face was just a tool for marketing." She paused, her eyes scanning the crowd. "I built Atelier Grey on a single principle, that quality needs no logo, that integrity needs no advertising, that silence is not an absence of power, it is the focus of it." She turned and gestured to the dress on the mannequin. "This is the Oracle dress. It is the centerpiece of my new collection. It's made from a single bolt of triple-ply silk, and its design is based on a single, unbroken seam. It is one of the most complex and expensive garments my studio has ever produced." She then looked, not at the camera, but seemingly right at Marcus. Her gaze was a steel spike. "A few weeks ago," she said, her voice dropping, a man I know, told me this dress was a rag. He said it was cheap. He said I looked like the Help." A wave of shocked, scandalized gasps rippled through the audience. He said this because he, like so many, has forgotten how to see. He only knows how to look. He looks for the logo. He looks for the price tag. He looks for the approval of others. He cannot see the craft, the quality, or the worth that is right in front of him. She held up the award. "This is for every person who has ever been told they are too simple. For every woman who has been told to be louder or flashier to be seen. For every artist who has been told their work is worthless by someone who doesn't even speak the language." She looked directly into the lens of the main camera, broadcasting to the world. My name is Serafina Grey, and I am not simple. I am not the help. I am the owner, the founder, and the chief designer of Atelier Grey, and I am just getting started. The room erupted. It wasn't applause, it was a roar, a standing ovation that felt like it would shake the glass dome apart. The panelists were all on their feet, clapping. Marcus Thorne stood up. He was numb. He turned, pushing past the man next to him, and stumbled into the aisle. He ran. He ran out of the auditorium, out of the Grand Palais, and into the grey Paris afternoon, the sound of his wife's triumph chasing him down the street. The sound of the standing ovation was not a sound of triumph to Marcus. It was a physical, percussive force, a wave of thunder chasing him out of the Grand Palais. He slammed through the glass exit doors, his chest heaving, and stumbled into the cool, indifferent grey of the Paris afternoon. He was running. He didn't know where. He just ran, shouldering past tourists on the Champs-Élysées, his $4,000 Zegna suit already streaked with sweat, his lungs burned. His mind was a whiteout of pure, screaming panic. $1 billion. Serafina Grey, the weaver, Robert Harrison, her godfather. The words looped, each one a fresh stab of betrayal. He was not just a fool. He was a cosmic, historic fool. He had stood on a mountain of gold and complained that it wasn't shiny enough. He had owned the entire mine and was now scrambling for pebbles in the dirt. He finally skidded to a stop, leaning against the cold stone of an unfamiliar building, and retched into a gutter. Tourists gave him a wide berth, mistaking him for a common drunk. In a way, they were right. He had been drunk on his own ego for years, and the hangover was killing him. He fumbled for his phone, his hands shaking so badly he could barely unlock it. It was already a smoking crater of his former life, a digital tombstone. 421 new emails, 112 text messages, 88 missed calls. He opened it. The first alert that popped up was from Forbes, the push notification, a brutal, concise epitaph. Silent no more. Serafina Grey, the weaver of 1.2B Atelier Grey, unmasked at Paris Summit. He clicked it. The article was already trending globally. There was a picture of Serafina on stage, looking radiant and powerful. Then there was a second, smaller photo. A blurry, long lens shot of him, his face a mask of horror, fleeing the auditorium. The caption, Marcus Thorne, husband of Serafina Grey, reacting to the news. He scrolled down. His email inbox was a list of digital guillotines. From Reynolds, James. Subject, termination. Marcus, your public association with the situation at the Innovators Gala, which cost this firm the Harrison Fund, was a significant concern. This new development, revealing a catastrophic lack of judgment and a conflict of interest you willfully failed to disclose, being married to the owner of $1 billion entity while our firm was exploring luxury good investments, makes your position untenable. Your access is revoked. Your terminal is locked. Security is packing the contents of your office. You are the single dumbest man I have ever met. Do not contact me or anyone at this firm again. He swiped to his texts. It was a cascade of WTF. Is it true? And dude, are you okay? From colleagues and friends who were all, he now realized, just vultures circling his success. And then there was the text storm from Chloe. Chloe, is this a joke? Chloe, Marcus, call me. People are sending me links. The red dress. They're laughing at me. They're calling me the Versace side piece. Chloe, that bitch. She planned this. She set us up. Chloe, Marcus, answer me. Are you broke, or is her money our money? Because if it's our money, we can destroy her. Call me. Chloe, Marcus. He saw a notification from his private bank, the one he shared with Serafina. Alert. A freeze has been placed on account 92012 by the primary account holder, S. Gray. He was choking. He couldn't breathe. He flagged down a taxi, his voice a hoarse croak. Hotel Plaza Atene. Vite! Fast! He stumbled into the glittering, flower-filled lobby of the hotel, a place that had worshipped him 24 hours earlier. The doorman, who had bowed to him that morning, now looked straight through him. The polite, smiling concierge stepped out from behind the desk, his face a mask of professional regret. "Mr. Thorne, a moment, please." "My key. It's not working," Marcus stammered, frantically tapping the card on his hip. "Sir, there has been a change in the registration for your suite," the concierge said, his voice low. "The bill has been settled in full, but the room is no longer in your name. We were asked to hold your luggage." "What? No, that's my suite. My wife." "Your wife is upstairs, Mr. Thorne. She is waiting for you, but she asked that you be escorted." 2 hotel security guards, large and impassive, materialized on either side of him. This was the walk of shame. The staff, the guests in the lobby sipping tea. They all watched. They saw the sweaty, panicked man from the Forbes article being marched to the elevator like a common criminal. The elevator ride up was a silent, suffocating hell. They walked him down the hall. The door to the presidential suite, his suite, was ajar. He was nudged inside. Serafina was standing by the window, looking out over the Eiffel Tower, which was just beginning to glitter against the twilight. She was still in her black pantsuit. She looked like a general surveying a conquered city. She was not alone. The 2 hotel guards remained at the door. Flanking her were 2 new men, dressed in severe dark suits, with earpieces, her personal security, and beside her, a woman he had never seen. She was in her 50s, with sharp features, sharper glasses, and a black leather attaché case resting on the table. "Sarah!" he gasped, the name ripping from his throat. "Sarah. Thank God. You won't believe the things they're saying. My job. My—" He lunged toward her, his hands out, desperate for an anchor. "Baby, we're rich! You're incredible! I can't believe it!" He tried to embrace her. The 2 new security men stepped forward in perfect, terrifying unison, blocking his path with their bodies, a wall of muscle. He froze. "There is no we, Marcus," Serafina said. Her voice wasn't the whisper he remembered. It was the clear, cold, amplified voice from the stage. It held the absolute, terrifying power of a judge's gavel. "Mr. Thorne," the woman with the glasses said, stepping forward. Her French accent was precise and sharp. "I am Geneviève Dubois, Ms. Gray's French legal counsel. We are here to facilitate your immediate departure from this suite and from this country." "Departure? What? This is my suite. I paid for this." Marcus laughed, a high-pitched, hysterical sound. "You can't. Serafina, stop this. Stop these people. It's me, your husband. I love you." The lie tasted like ash in his mouth. I can explain, Chloe," he stammered, his eyes darting between the lawyer and his wife. "It was a mistake, a stupid, meaningless mistake. She meant nothing. I was stressed. We can fix this. I can help you run this company. I know finance. You need me." The room was silent. Serafina let the idiotic, desperate words hang in the air, then die. She turned from the window. Her eyes were not angry. They were not sad. They were, to his horror, completely, utterly, and devastatingly empty. She was looking at him like he was a line item on a budget that needed to be cut. "Help me," she repeated. "Like you helped me at the gala." She took a step closer. The guards tensed. She raised a hand and they relaxed. She was in total control. You don't get it, Marcus. That's the part you've never understood. You were never my partner. You were my camouflage. Camouflage? What? You think you were fired because of me? She continued, her voice a scalpel, dissecting him piece by piece. No. You were fired because you're a bad investor. You were fired because you are arrogant, and you make bad emotional bets. You were fired because you lost the Harrison Fund all by yourself. But, Harrison, I just spoke to Robert, she said. He was my father's roommate at Yale, Marcus. He has been my godfather for 30 years. He has sat on the advisory board of Atelier Grey since the day I founded it. He didn't come to that gala to see you. He came to see me, and to take the measure of the man who was, by all accounts, making his goddaughter's life a quiet hell. You failed his little test, Marcus, spectacularly. Marcus's knees felt weak. He grabbed the back of a chair. As for your career, the lawyer, Genevieve, interjected, I believe you'll find it difficult to work in private equity again. Ms. Grey is, as of this afternoon, the majority shareholder in the holding company that owns your former firm. Your indiscretion, as Mr. Reynolds called it, has been noted. He was not just fired, he was erased. Now, Genevieve continued, to the assets. She opened her attaché case. Mr. Thorne, this is a post-nuptial agreement you signed 3 years ago. You may not recall. You were quite busy. She slid a paper across the table. It's the one you insisted on, Serafina said, her voice dripping ice. The one you had your lawyers draft to protect your future earnings from my modest family trust fund. You were so afraid I'd take your money, Marcus. It stipulates, Genevieve said, a complete and total separation of all assets, current and future, in the event of, and I quote, professional infidelity or gross public misconduct. Your long-term documented affair with Ms. Chloe Bishop and your behavior at the Innovators Gala qualify on all counts. It's an ironclad morality clause. Your clause, Mr. Thorne. Marcus's world, which had been tilting, now inverted. The penthouse, Serafina said, ticking items off a mental list, was purchased by a holding company. I am the sole director. The lease on your Porsche expired last Tuesday. My office declined to renew it. It was towed this morning. The art you loved to brag about. All on loan from the Met. My mother is the head of the acquisitions board. They're collecting it on Friday. Everything you thought was yours was just mine, on loan, to see what you would do with it. And you, Marcus, you were a terrible, terrible disappointment. He was speechless. He was a ghost. As for Miss Bishop, Serafina nodded to the lawyer. Genevieve handed him a second, much thicker folder. These, the lawyer said, are receipts. For the apartment you leased for her on the Upper East Side, the jewelry, the trips, all paid for from a joint checking account. An account which, you may recall, was funded entirely by Ms. Grey. My forensic accountants in New York call that embezzlement. I believe they have already filed the criminal complaint with the district attorney's office. This was it. The bottom. He was going to jail. Oh, I'm not going to have you prosecuted, Marcus, Serafina said, as if reading his mind. That's too messy, but the threat of it will be enough. This folder, a copy of which is now with Ms. Bishop, ensures that she will testify on my behalf in the divorce proceedings in exchange for a very generous immunity deal. You get nothing. Marcus finally collapsed into the chair. He was a hollowed-out shell. I have nothing, he whispered. My wallet. You can't just leave me here. I have no money, no job, no. You need to leave. "Now," Serafina said. "Where am I supposed to go?" he shrieked, the last of his dignity shredding. "Your personal items from the penthouse, the ones you didn't bring to Paris, are in a storage unit in the Bronx. My office will text you the address and the key code," Serafina said. "These gentlemen," she gestured to her security team, "will escort you to the lobby." "But my flight." "My assistant, Arthur. You remember Arthur, from the studio? You always thought he was the valet, has graciously booked you a flight home." A tiny, pathetic flicker of hope. A flight. Thank God. A one-way ticket. Coach, on Norwegian Air," Serafina stated, her voice flat. "It leaves from Orly in 3 hours. A car, a basic Uber, is waiting for you downstairs to take you to the airport. Your room at the airport Ibis is prepaid for 1 night, in case you miss it. I believe you once told me their amenities were adequate for the lower classes." The poetic justice was so brutal, so complete, it was almost art. The 2 security guards stepped forward and took his arms. He didn't fight. He was too broken to fight. He was a mannequin being moved. They lifted him to his feet. "Serafina," he pleaded. One last time, his voice a child's whimper. "Please, don't do this." She had already turned her back on him, returning to the window. "You called me a nobody, Marcus," she said, her voice final, her reflection in the glass, the only thing looking at him. "You were wrong. I'm a somebody. But you? You're about to find out exactly what it feels like to be a nobody. And you won't even have that simple rag I was wearing to keep you warm." The guards dragged him from the room. The last thing he saw before the door clicked shut was the silhouette of his wife, Serafina Grey, standing tall and alone, claiming the Paris skyline as her own. His walk of shame through the Plaza Athénée lobby was a blur. The Uber was, as promised, a cramped Peugeot. The Ibis Hotel was a symphony of beige plastic and the smell of disinfectant. He tried to call Chloe from the lobby. Her number was already disconnected. The New York Times ran the story on the front page of the Sunday Style section. It was a masterpiece of journalism. It showed 2 pictures, side by side. On the left, Serafina, captured at the exact moment she held her award aloft, her face a serene, powerful portrait of triumph. On the right, the paparazzi shot of Marcus, his face blurred and contorted in a mask of sweaty panic, fleeing the Grand Palais. The headline was simple, devastating, and perfect. The Weaver and the Wreckage. Serafina Grey never returned to the penthouse. She sold it, along with everything that reminded her of her old life. Her company, Atelier Grey, opened its first ever physical store, not a flashy flagship, but a quiet, appointment-only archive in Paris. Her divorce was swift and silent. Marcus, ruined and blacklisted from finance, was last seen trying to sell luxury cars in a suburban dealership. Chloe vanished, her social media going dark after the red Versace dress became a global meme for desperate. Serafina's story is a powerful reminder that the world will often try to judge you by the loudest, flashiest label. People will try to tell you that simple means worthless, and that quiet means weak. But true power, true value, isn't screamed from a billboard. It's in the quiet confidence of your craft. It's in the integrity of your work. Never let the noise of others' opinions drown out the silent, powerful truth of who you are. Thank you for listening to this story. If you were as gripped by Serafina's journey as we were, please show your support. Hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to be reminded of their own worth, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel for more real-life drama and powerful stories. Let us know in the comments, What was the moment Marcus finally realized he'd lost? We'll see you in the next one.